The federal government is concerned about reported poor conditions at the Afokang Custodial Centre in Calabar, with allegations of inhumane treatment, including poorly cooked food. Interior Minister Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo has ordered an urgent investigation, describing the situation as a serious breach of standards. He emphasized that lapses in food quality, sanitation and inmate welfare will not be tolerated, and promised that those responsible will be held accountable. The investigation's findings will be made public and disciplinary measures will follow. The state of our correctional centers in Nigeria, the state of our prison in Nigeria. If you call any Nigerian now to ask this question, if you go to the streets and you ask people on the road, what is your perception about the state of Nigeria's prison? I don't think you get a lot of positive reviews about Nigeria's prison. This particular prison being referenced here, and what exactly the minister has said, let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, I like to say that the right word is what is talked about, the correctional center, no longer the prison. Now, those who are still with the prison mentality are the ones that will, maltreat the inmates who are in the correctional centers. So I like to think that there is need for reorientation of the correctional centers workers, those staffs who takes care of the inmates. So I also want to encourage that proper excuse me, proper checks and proper supervision around the correctional centers, especially the one in Calabar that is now a case study, should be put in place so that we don't always become reactive to issues, so that we always be on the proactive state of events. And I would like to say that the positive step by the minister is laudable, because why? Not every person in the correctional center has been convicted. Some are still awaiting trials. So it's not as if they have been convicted and you feel that they deserve to suffer, they deserve to they deserve an inhumane maltreatment. No, that's wrong. So most of them are just there because they are still awaiting trials. Some of them are innocently taken to the correctional center, even though they have to face the same measures from those who are already convicted. So I like to say that the management of the correctional centers should see those who are there as human beings, as their brothers, as their sisters, in case there is any reason for the inhuman treatment.
And those convicted and those not convicted put in the same place?
It's a correctional center. They are all in the same environment. So there is no much differences to the best of my understanding, even though I have not been there before.
But did you see people who have not been convicted, who have been sentenced?
Yes, I have visited, yes. So I'd like to say that it is out of place to see that those who are in the correctional center, the correctional centers ought to be like a rehabilitation home, a rehab home, where those who are convicted are made to come out and become better citizens. And in trying to make them better citizens, they must eat at least the little meal that can be provided for them. And secondly, they have a right to good health facilities which are provided within that environment. They have a right to training, because the correctional centers now have some skill acquisition. Some are even in school while they're in correctional center. The law gives them that privilege. So I want to say that the correctional center is no longer a prison, and they should not be treated like colonial prisoners.
When you look at what their laws state, right, if there are regulations that actually protect or that they should actually follow in these correctional centers, you find out that these things we're saying are not out of place. And I believe that there are checks on ground, there are measures for checks on ground. So every time we talk about stories, not just stories about correctional centers in general, the big question comes to mind, What happened to the bodies that are supposed to check to make sure that these things are happening right? If the Calabar Correctional Centre is being talked about today, it's not because these things that he's mentioning just started happening now. Definitely it has been there for a long time. So this statement coming now is, although it's not out of place, but what happened all this while? What happened to all the checks we had on ground all this while? Who was supposed to do what that wasn't doing that? And another thing that we should also look at is the fact that these people have usually, time and time again, complained about funds. They have complained about monies being sent, not being enough to carry out what they're supposed to carry out, to check the welfare of these inmates. So sometimes, I remember once when the correctional center, they were complaining that they were giving 250,000 naira per, was it per meal or per day or something, and then there have been an increase in the prices of goods and services outside. So even then, when prices were lower, it was that situation. Now imagine this time when prices are higher. So these are also some of the things, some of the challenges that these people are facing and what we're also going to look at.
Well, I think that's why the leadership is asking for investigation. The fact that there are poor treatment in the correctional center of Calabar does not mean that the fault is completely on the management, like you rightly have mentioned. So I want to think that when these investigations are done, they will see where there was lapses, either from the funding that government ought to have given to them, or maybe misappropriation, or maybe from delay in this funding. And I think that if funding is a major concern, there is need for periodic review because of the current and daily inflation, that we have in the market space of our country right now. So I think there's need for review of what the correctional centers get so that they can easily meet up with the provision, because you can't give what you do not have. So if the budget they provided for them early this year is what they are still getting, there is no way the inmate will not complain. So I like to think that those who are in authority should understand that those who are managing the correctional centers needs to have a periodic reports, and when these reports are given, it should be swiftly responded to, so that the issues of what we're having in the Calabar correctional center will not repeat. And I also want to feel that it's probably that it is not something that have taken a long time. It could be something that just happened. So even if it happened yesterday, it's still timely.
If it could be something that just happened, it could also be something that has been there.
Exactly. So we cannot really ascertain. But I like to feel that there are reasons why this kind of lapses are there. And I want to say that the investigation should be swift. It should be speedized so that the response that is needed to curb these negative occurrences will be taken care of on time.
All right, let's go to Calabar State now.